We Hold Hope Close by Reverend Teresa I. Soto. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath, the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who hold to love as our guiding star and to truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmering, indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream, and know that by covenant and movement forward, by taking one right action and the next, one day we will arrive at home.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Jeremy. I get around in my community and in my home church and in the churches where I've been invited to guest preach. And one question seems to be uppermost in the minds of the people I talk to. And that question is, how do we deal with the polarization and division in our country? Not on the level of political strategy, but as a human problem, as a relational problem. How are we to deal with our friends and neighbors with whom we can no longer talk about current events? After all, these are many of the people who help us and the people we help. The guy who lives next door to me, who is a rock in every time of trouble in my house. I'm not a great homeowner, but he is, oh my God. His politics are, I just don't even want to go there. What about the Trump voter in our congregations? What about our MAGA family members? I was on an airplane recently, and the woman in the seat next to me turned out to be a member of the congregation I served a dozen years ago. And I remember her family from 20 years ago. 2 little toddler boys crawling around in the pew. And now she despairs of one of her sons. Now he's a 20-year-old angry young man, seeming to drift down the path of radicalization. And she despairs, what can she do to bring him back? What's going on? There's a term first enunciated in the 1870s by an anthropologist called schismogenesis. Schismogenesis. It names the process by which groups of people create identities in opposition to each other. And clearly that's what's going on here in this United States. If Team Blue promotes somebody in the culture, something in the culture, or the economy or a policy, then Team Red will hate it, and vice versa. It could be a pop star like Taylor Swift, or vaccines, or windmills, or electric vehicles. Team Blue is into gender bending, and Team Red wants gender polarizing and gender policing. I think there is a temptation in such a period of schismogenetic, here's a word you can take home, right? Schismogenetic polarization, identity formation, to want to, quote, bridge the gaps, reach across the aisle, to blur the differences, and try to find some middle ground. And it's usually ineffective, because the impulse to divide is actually stronger in those moments than the impulse to unite. Because everyone is reacting to each other. They're anxious, and they're watching what their opposite numbers are doing and responding to that. Are we clear about what I'm saying? Does this match up with what you see going on? We're in a period of great social conflict, and that shows up as this polarization and tribalization, us against them. And yeah, there are deep economic, political, social, global forces that are in conflict with each other. And this is truly a perilous moment on the clock of the world. But I'm not really addressing that. That's just a given. That's just the world we have to live in. But how does that show up for us? It seems that people who seem to be good people who we help and who help us, people in our families and neighborhoods seem to be drifting away or turning out to be on another team, and we fear losing them forever. At this moment, it's good to remember the concept of self-differentiation. That's a word that comes, big words today, I'm sorry. At least they're not like big theology words, which are even more, hard to get your head around. Self-differentiation is the idea that you cannot deal with people who are different than you until you know yourself first. Once you know yourself clearly, you can be less anxious and you can see others more clearly. And you can relate to them with less anger and with less fear. I don't know how this chapter in our history will end, but I know it will. And what we can do to bring that end closer is to be true to ourselves and to know ourselves so that we can relate without fear and anxiety with those who are now on a different path. And in an emotionally chaotic time, calmness brings influence. I will guarantee you, well, I'll predict. I will predict that the next president of the United States will be the candidate who projects calm more than any other candidate. Calmness brings influence in emotional, chaotic times. And calmness comes from knowing yourself. So, who are we? I know we jumbled it all up trying to get the tune right, but we are our grandmother's prayers and our grandfather's dreaming. And we are the breath of our ancestors, the breath of our ancestors. And the mothers of courage and the fathers of time and the daughters of dust and the sons of great visions, the siblings of mercy and the cousins of love, the lovers of life and the builders of nations, seekers of truth and keepers of faith, makers of peace and wisdom of ages. And when every night a child is born is a holy night, and the universe itself sings. Well, my grandparents were not Ysaye Barnwell's grandparents. And I doubt that my grandparents or hers, maybe I'm wrong, I doubt that any of them ever had tea with Emerson or William Ellery Channing. But in some steep way, they all had similar or even the same prayers and dreamings. They all prayed for and dreamed of a time and place where everyone could be seen and recognized in all the ways they yearned to be seen, in all our identities and cultural legacies, to use Bell Hook's phrase, in all the ways that their minds are wired. And they prayed for and dreamed of a time when everyone could participate in the decisions that affect their lives, and the needs of all were satisfied. My grandparents, very serious and solemn German Baptists of the Christian social gospel variety, would have named that vision the kingdom of God. And we now name that prayer as beloved community. And in our 7 principles, we name it as a world of justice, equity, and compassion. And now we say it is a world where love is at the center. The words are forever changing. But when we hear Curtis Mayfield sing of a train a-coming, and we instinctively know where that train is headed. Our religious movement, Unitarian, we're into the knowing ourselves, okay? Breaking down what E.C. Barnwell said, one word said, were our grandfathers' visions and our grandmother's prayers. Our religious movement, Unitarian Universalism, in its American version, was created in the generations after the Revolution in 1776. You see, there was a contradiction between the prevailing Calvinism of the day and the ideology of the Revolution. The religion was on one track, and our national ideology was on another track. Calvinism thought that humankind was innately depraved and that governments were established by God to control sinful humanity. And the revolution was based on an opposite premise, that humankind was not only capable of but deserved self-government, and that governments were established by us to protect our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the early American Unitarians and Universalisms rejected that Calvinism and have been stumbling fitfully forward as a democratic faith ever since. That's who we are. And like most people, we don't live up to our dreams, but that's who we are. In 1964, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. addressed our General Assembly. And the title of his speech there was, "Don't Sleep Through the Revolution." Well, white UUs hit the snooze button for several decades after that, but eventually, in 1987, we woke up enough to proclaim our intention to be an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, multicultural religious movement. And we have been trying to be woke ever since. Because woke is better than unconscious. Our faith, which is at heart a faith in the possibility of human freedom and flourishing, makes it possible to hear the diesels humming. All you need is faith to hear the diesels humming. The turning of the wheels of time and history that just keep moving forward. And as much as is being challenged and damaged and lost, much right now is being preserved and being built for the first time. Aside here, just for an example, just take an example. If you compare the attitudes of people toward immigrants from 10 years ago, the big difference has been that on the progressive side of the political spectrum, the attitudes toward immigrants has changed. The progressives used to accept the frame that they were a problem that needed to be dealt with. And now on the progressive side, we've moved forward to understand they're just like our grandparents who came here, or great-grandparents, or imagine here in New England, great-great-great-grandparents who came here to build a better life for themselves. We've changed. Something new is being built, as well as something being preserved. People are coming together. people are being protected, and people are being seen and recognized who were never seen before. The number of people who are learning about transgender folk is a remarkable thing. That's been a huge change, and it's growing every day because of everything that's going on. People are being seen and recognized and protected who were never seen and recognized before. There will be another reconstruction. There will be another refounding of this republic someday. And someday, too, all of this shall pass, right? A train is coming, and it is headed to beloved community. And everyone is invited. You just get on board. The tragedy of this present moment is this: there are many who do not believe that they have been invited to beloved community. It's not that they don't want to go, but they think they have not been invited. But the sign says they don't need a ticket, they can just get on board, but they don't believe it. Our churches and congregations have experience with this. You know, our own experience is a great teacher. During the 1980s, 90s, we had a welcoming congregation effort. Were you involved in that here? Yes. It was a self-education program to overcome our own homophobia that made our congregations unwelcoming to LGBTQ plus people. Right? One of the sentiments that kept coming up during that period was, we don't need to do this because we say everybody is welcome here. Right outside it says everybody welcome. So we shouldn't have to say that we welcome gays and lesbians, right? We didn't realize that people who are vulnerable think they say they welcome everyone, but they don't really mean me, people like me. You may pass an evangelical church and it says on the sign, everybody's welcome here, all are welcome. And you think, well, they don't mean people who think like I do, right? In the welcoming congregation process, we learn through our own experience that you have to welcome people who doubt that they're included precisely where they feel most vulnerable. You have to, I always think of the thing, you get invited to a party and you get there and you realize that you're underdressed. And you're feeling very nervous and maybe unwelcome. And it really makes a difference if the host and hostess comes and compliments your outfit, right? Then you feel welcome because they spoke to where you felt vulnerable. So if you want to welcome LGBTQ plus people, you need to make that welcome explicit. You need to fly a rainbow flag. That was one of the big asks of the welcoming congregation. Don't just go through the workshops and read the materials and stuff and say, okay, we're going to welcome LGBTQ people. You need to put a sign out front. And some of the very people who were the most resistant, that was where they drew the line. Oh, I don't know, a sign, everybody will know. We can't just keep this our own private little thing. You got to put a sign out front. You need to fly the rainbow flag or put up a rainbow sticker or paint your front steps rainbow colors. There are a lot of people in this country who, when we talk about the vision of a multiracial, multicultural democracy that's in formation now, that is the future, that we call beloved community, they don't think that there's going to be a place for them in it. There's a lot of young white men who think that they need a ticket to get on the train, and there will be no tickets for people like them. But they don't need a ticket, they just need to get on board. I don't have a solution to this problem. There are no magic words that can communicate the sincerity with which the invitation to beloved community is being extended. I do know from my own experience that gracious people, women, people of color, and other men in this denomination kept extending that invitation to me when I was sure they didn't really mean me. They gave me the benefit of the doubt until I could return it. The ticket is not the only obstacle. That young white man who has been introduced to the information that he carries a lot of privileges in comparison to others may think he has not been given a ticket. But actually, he doesn't want to get on board if he can't bring his privileges with him. His privileges are his baggage, and he doesn't need them where we're going. Don't need no baggage, you just thank the Lord. Now, I'll let you unpack the phrase, thank the Lord, however you wish. But let's end in a spirit of gratitude. Let's be thankful for this religious tradition, who we are, which is pointing us to a hopeful outcome to these terrible times. And let us be thankful for our ancestors, people of faith, both in our own faith and other faiths, and in our communities and families, whose dreams and prayers we get to carry. And let's be thankful for our children and grandchildren and descendants who will actually get to build what we only dream about. And let us be thankful of the democratic traditions of this nation and its people, which are ours to enjoy and preserve. And finally, let us be thankful for these times. Let us be thankful for these terrible times, because this is a time when history has slipped its leash, and what every single person does matters. And centuries go by where people are powerless and people don't have a chance to stand in the street or be wherever they are and make a difference. And we have that chance. So let us be grateful for it. Let us, each one of us, learn what we can do to extend the invitation by our words and by our actions and by our deeds and our attitudes to everyone who thinks that they don't need a ticket to get on that train. They do not need a ticket, but they do not need their baggage where they are going, where we are all going. They are just saying, we're just saying, come and go with us. Come and go with us to that land. Now, I think you know this song. It's number, 1018 in your teal hymnal. Don't pick up your hymnal. You know the song. We're just going to look at each other and sing it. Jeremy. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go. Land where I'm bound. I don't need the words. You're doing great. Me to that land where I'm bound. They'll be singing in My friends, thank you so much for letting me come and worship with you this morning. I just will end with this. Folks, there's powers at work in the universe, not made by human hands, but made by all of us together, and they are leading us somewhere. Somewhere where we want to go. We need to get on board. But I'll tell you this, the power that is at work is a sustaining, transforming, creating power. And you can trust it. You can trust it with your life. You can trust it with your hopes and dreams. It'll be with you whenever you stand up for justice or freedom, and it'll be with you whenever you reach out to a person who needs a friend. It'll be with you when you make soup. For a guy who's having trouble swallowing. Trust in that power and go forth in love and freedom and justice and hope. Amen.